This is a hands-on demonstration. Point to it, focus your eye, both eyes, on your finger, and the finger pointing towards here. So that you have the focus of your finger between your two eyesights, and then Holy Quran. So they're all lined up. Now close your right eye. It moved. Open back. Close your left eye. Quran didn't move. Your perception of it moved. Depending whether you seeing with the right eye, there's an understanding. Whether you're seeing with left eye, it means the truth is one. The truth is there. How we're perceiving it is the way of marifah, the way of realities. So Allah says the truth doesn't keep changing between people based on their level of understanding, their level of realities. The truth isn't changing, but their perception of it is either expanding or contracting. And the truth remains one. So they begin to teach us that it's right there in the center. If life is imbalanced and one eye not functioning, as if the target moved. And if the other side not balanced, again it moved. But it requires both eyes to lock on and to keep the center way, to keep the balanced path. So that in our physiology of the self, Allah describing your two eyes are responsible for keeping your path balanced. If using one eye, it's going to have a different imbalance. If using left eye, it's going to have a different imbalance. And they begin to teach from Allah's attributes which are essences. Al-Hayyu al-Nur. That they begin to teach us in the way of marifah first, and then we come back to the understanding of the unbelief and unbelievers and the great deceiver that is opening within dunya. In the way of belief, they begin to teach us that Qur'an and Hadith is one, but how you are perceiving it is going to be based on the light within your heart. The light within your heart that emanates a nur, and the light within your heart that emanates from Sifat al-Hayat. Means two divinely attributes that are responsible for the quality of your firasa, your divinely vision, your spiritual vision, your physical vision. Means that everything has to be balanced. So there are people who come into belief, immediately Allah grants them a nur. It's a nur, but not yet from the oceans of the realities of hayat complete. So it means these are like two cups and we're asking to fill them. As much as we fill them from Allah's attributes, it's endless, it's never enough, it never takes anything from Allah. But they begin to teach us the perception and the understanding. Somebody comes to belief, they're granted now a nur, a light. Within their eye, they have a light. They read Holy Quran and they only understand something very basic. Where do we understand that in technology? Is a CD. That you have to have a reader that hits. CD is a plastic like a mirror, but encoded with millions of information. Based on the quality of that light, it hits that mirror and retrieves information. They begin to teach that when Allah begins to send a nur into the heart, and that nur begins to reflect through the eyes. When the eye looks at the entry level, has very little light, it's still struggling just to flicker. It pulls in information, reads Holy Quran, and mainly from the level of Furqan. Furqan is right and wrong, right and wrong. And then they become maybe mu'min, and maybe imams. They have more light into their heart. If they don't keep the way of tazkiyah and tasawwuf and the ways of purification, they won't be drinking from the oceans of hayat. But because of their amal and their actions, they will be granted nur, nur, nur. Again, they look, and their perception and their understanding of Holy Hadith and Holy Qur'an and everything is at a different darajat. Because there is a light reflecting, and that light is hitting these holy letters, and Allah reflecting back to the level of their heart and their belief. It can't be more than the level of belief because it's precious. It's a power, it's a qudra from Allah's Divinely Presence. And they begin to teach so that we understand there are darajats and there are levels. These levels based on the nur within their heart. Means then you come across very pious scholars that again their practices and their amal is granting them light and maybe little bit of hayat. Because hayat then we go into, that's completely different practices. The nur and the actions and the amal grants you a light. They speak again as if they read the interpretation, and they speak very nicely and they give you out the interpretation, not from the oceans of realities. They mainly bake the English, the Arabic, and give you back an explanation with a little bit of here and there, little bit of knowledges. And you can see them throughout YouTube, every type of scholar and knowledgeable person. Again, based on the light within their heart. But because it's now the perception, like the test that we gave, when it's only working with one eye and the light of faith is entering that eye, the heart, and only shining a nur, their perception of the reality is a little bit off center. They're pulling out information, but not at the level of awliyaullah, not at the level of pious saints, who they are drinking from the fountains of hayat. Means that their whole life is in zikrullah, their whole life is in praising upon Sayyidina Muhammad, their whole life is in tazkiyah, in purification. As a result of that, they are drinking from the oceans of Kawthar. They are drinking from the oceans of hayat, and they are now two-winged. That what's emanating within their heart is the ocean of hayat, the oceans of the ever-living reality, and the oceans of nur. When the ocean of hayat and nur begin to look at something, means they pull out the reality in which Allah wants to dress them. And they speak at levels and realities that are far beyond the ability of others. So when people say, I haven't heard those realities, and other people speak from a different reality or different level, they begin to teach. Those who know themselves, they know that if the practices of that one is not strong enough and not opening the oceans of hayat, they are merely through their amal being granted nur. And their nur can only retrieve so much information. So then you have Furqan, you have now Qur'an. Qur'an is from the heart of the Arabic messenger. Means that the light and the love of Sayyidina Muhammad must be emanating within your heart. That is the ocean of hayat. He is the servant of Al-Hayy. That when Allah wants to describe Al-Hayat, it's not through Allah. That's Sharif. Don't make example of Allah. Allah is not Hayy and Allah is not Mayt. He's not live and He's not death. Allah is beyond the ocean of understanding. But when we want to describe who is the ever-living servant of Allah, it's Sayyidina Muhammad. Means then the lovers and the ashiqeen of Sayyidina Muhammad, they are the people of hayat. And Allah describes them as Ashab al-Kahf. That's why 18, next month, the month of Safar opening. This is the reality of Ashab al-Kahf. The real Ashab al-Kahf is the ones who accompanied Sayyidina Muhammad to the holy cave. Means that the Ashab al-Kahf from before was the imitation for the arrival of Sayyidina Muhammad. They are the exemplars to teach us that the characteristics of Ashab al-Kahf, the people of Hayat. Because we know people of Nur, every action, every amal has a Nur. They be granted a light. It doesn't mean they be granted Hayat. They don't reach to those oceans of eternity. The example of that servant was Sayyidina Khidr. Sayyidina Khidr was asking, Ya Rabbi, let me to drink from the fountains of the ever-living and to reach eternity. The eternal oceans of the ever-living is the oceans of Kawthar. He reached to the holy Kawthar, drank from that reality, and now he's reached eternity. Means al-Hayat is never dying. The souls that are dressed from al-Hayat, they swim in the zikr of al-Hayy under Sifat al-Rahim. Ra, Hay, Mim. The Hay, Mim. Who are the Mim? These are the Muhammadan, whose hearts are high. They've been granted from Rahman, Rahman, because Noon, Nur of Rahman, Hayy Rahim, Salamun Qawlan min Rabbir Rahim. Why? Because they are in the heart of Yasin. Means they love Prophet. They follow the way and the example, the sunnah of Sayyidina Muhammad. Not only external amal, but their internal tazkiyah, their internal adab, their internal characteristics. They don't talk, they're very pious, they're very quiet, very humble, constant zikr, constant purification, never glorifying themselves, but always humiliating and humbling themselves. And as a result, Prophet grants them an access towards that ocean, and they become from Ashab al-Kahf. Then Mawlana Shaykh begins to teach Ashab al-Kahf. Ashab al-Kahf is to be from the people of Kahf. So what is Kahf? It's Kawthar. To be from the people of the Kawthar. From Kathir, Allah says, we have given you the fountain of abundance. Kabir, oceans of greatness. They drink, they bathe, they nourish their souls, everything about them is how much their soul can move into the Kawthar, can swim into the oceans of Kawthar like a fish trying to absorb as much as it can from Prophet from what Allah dressing Sayyidina Muhammad, that the owner of the holy Kawthar, the owner of the Kawthar that flows to the Zamzam is Sayyidina Muhammad. That Allah said, we have given you the fountain of abundance. Means everything within it, every life emanating from it. And be from Ashab al-Kahf. Be from the people who are seeking the Kawthar. They drink Zamzam in dunya to reach the reality of the Kawthar of Akhirah. But to reach to the oceans of Hayat, they begin to teach us. They are different than people who just have certain amal. That amal has a perception that's off target, but still good. When the heart is filled with ocean of Hayat, filled with oceans of Nur, they are looking with Al-Hayy al-Nur, and Allah like a CD, that whatever they focus their heart on begins to retrieve information. Why? Because they are under now the reality of Rahman. And what Allah described them in Surah Al-Rahman, Alam al-Quran khalaq al-insan. Means that what you're looking for of realities, that your soul is dressed from al-Hayat, your soul has reached my Nur. Whatever your soul looks at, it's going to now remember what I taught you when you were in the